Hello, this is a Bluthner Grand Style 8 that's 6 foot 3 inches long, just come into stock. It's made in 1894. You can see the original music stand here, which you have for that age, and the original legs as well, and the original pedal lyre. Now I'm testing it to see what we need to do to it. First of all, looking at the keys, they're perfect ivories. They're a little bit yellowed here and there. We'll certainly buff them, and I think they're fine actually. We won't need to do too much work on them. I see the beautiful veneer of Bluthners. We frequently French polish these. It takes about 70 hours to French polish them. I'm debating as to whether this needs doing. Well, it's in the polishing room, so we're intending to do it because it will certainly prove it, but the piano is in reasonable condition without doing that, so obviously you're going to save a lot of money if you don't get it done. You see the fading there. Well, we would really like to repolish it, but as I say, you can save 70 hours of work is a lot of time. It was originally supplied by Harris, as you can see there. And look at the veneer on the sides. Also, that's in reasonably good condition. Well, certainly we would bring out a lot more of the grain. You see where they've tried to disguise the line. All Bluthners have this line where the veneer joins. We would say French polish it and do it slightly differently from this, although the casework does look reasonable. Again, on the coming around the back of the piano, you can see where it's again been faked in and disguised. There's lots of excellent grain there. I'm not quite sure why they would do that, but it does look pleasant. It's a nice colour. And the long side of the piano, also the same sort of thing. They've patched in some things here that shows up a lot worse on the video than it is actually live, but certainly we'd love to repolish this piano. This is a typical original music stand. You do often find that these, when you see a restored Bluthner Grand, these have been made, in which case they're made of modern material. This was an original one, and original rosewood veneer on it. If you look at the lid, you can see it's very faded compared to the rest of the piano. It's obviously been down like this and let the sun get to it. But you'll see other videos where, in fact, the last one we've done, it was amazingly bleached, and you'll see the end result when it's French polished. Very, very pretty. And lastly, the top lid. Again, it's pleasant. It would certainly be acceptable for a musician, perhaps, who doesn't really care too much about what it looks like. Wants it respectable, but not amazing on the outside. Because this piano is a wonderful musical instrument. It's been fully restored by Bluthners in 1984. Apart from having the original receipt to show it's done by Bluthners, you can often tell because they tend to put the badge or decal that doesn't correspond for the age of the piano. It's actually the latest date on here is 1929, but that serial number tells us it's 1894, and inside there's a serial number, as there always is on the Bluthner. Very slightly crazed, the soundboard, but that obviously isn't affecting the sound at all. It's just about the only defect I can see internally. Now it's had a new rest plank, so these are quite small tuning pins. You'll see there's a screw lying there. That's because I've taken it out to see the new rest plank, which I'll show you in a minute. So there's the rest plank or tuning block. It's one of our preferred styles. This one's actually got a mixture of two. It's like the rock maple one that you buy, but it's like the Delignate one here. I'll show you the rest planks we normally use. On the left there we have the Delignate rest plank that's used by Bluthner normally nowadays, and that's a rock maple one. Both are very, very good, and this is an older one that shows you the angle of the tuning pin. So back to the piano. This one has, you see the laminate here, and it has like the hardwood combinations. That should be an excellent rest plank. And the proof of the pudding is in the eating, of course, and so I'm pleased to say that these tuning pins are very tight and very smooth to turn, so that's a great job done. Now listening to the tone of the strings, as you'd expect with the Bluthner, very full. This has got a new soundboard and new replaced strings, which does alter the tone a bit, but because Bluthner knows how to do it for their own pianos, they get a very close match, and you hear the rich, warm tone. They're renowned for their warm tone. But by the way, this piano is 7 beats flat to concert pitch, so needs a lot of pitch raising, and it'll be more lively once it's pitch raised as well. I would say it hadn't been tuned for probably, well, a huge number of years, because Bluthners are very stable. In fact, if you listen to it, it's in tune with itself very well, but just flat. And by the way, I thought I'd point out something about Bluthner dampers. These have been replaced, but I don't know if you can see that one's higher than the rest. They're kind of like a swivel system like that, which is very nice for regulation, but they do tend to go out, maybe the client dusts them and it pushes the back up, and as you can see the front comes, pushes the back down, the front comes up, so they quite often get problems. And if you've got a Bluthner, check yours if the damping's not quite right. So we've certainly got to level those off again. So let's look at the action, and the hammers are hardly worn. As you can see, it's not really been played very much since it's restored, hardly at all. Those hardly account for any playing, so it's probably just played for a couple of years and then never really tuned after that, and that's why it's so flat. But if we look at the hammers, they're in perfect condition. These are, it's quite a long time ago, but I'm just guessing that these are probably Renner hammers, and obviously Renner Bluthner hammers. Bluthner know what they were doing. You can see the recovering of the checks back there, and generally they've fully restored the piano. You often get one of the hammer shanks when you replace the hammers, one of them breaking, so you get one replaced. That's quite common. In fact, you expect that very often to see that when you see a fully restored piano, but excellently done. I think they've replaced the L-shaped springs here as well. As tuners and technicians will tell you, they last forever and ever, and it's not necessary to do that normally, but they have replaced them. It shows you the kind of thorough work that they've done on the piano. So that's an assessment of a Bluthner Grand Piano Style 8, made in 1894 and fully restored by Bluthners in 1984. And it's as good a piano as you can possibly get. We have 4 Bluthners in stock at the moment. One of them's been fully repolished, the same model, and this one hasn't been polished yet. So if you want to buy a piano less expensively, then please let us know. We won't repolish it. That'll obviously cut the cost down, but technically this piano is going to be absolutely perfect. Typical Bluthner, very mellow here. It's much more mellow than a modern piano, so you perhaps need to try them both to see what the difference is and see which you prefer. But extremely stable pianos. This is 7 beats flat at the moment, which is very, very flat, and indicates that it's probably not been played a lot in its life, because it's very in tune with itself, as you can hear. That's because Bluthners are so well made, such stable pianos. Original ivory keys, wonderful grain on the casework. Just one of our favourite pianos, really. Highly recommend it. The touch is ideal for learning on. With a patent action, I recommend that you would perhaps buy an ordinary action later on when you got to perhaps grade 7 or 8. But it's perfectly okay out to there to learn on, and has a nice, typical touch, really. The touch is different though on a patent action. It's a bit more like a keyboard. It does the up weight is very high. You'll see other videos that talk about up weight. It's not got a low up weight, which you get on top quality roller action grands. It's a different type of action, but very, very, very reliable. In fact, almost more reliable than a roller action. Thank you very much for listening.